Chapter 1. A Strange Encounter. It was a late evening when I first saw her. I was coming home from work, just finishing a long day at the spaceport where I worked as a mechanic. My apartment was on the edge of the colony, a place where the lights from the city seemed dimmer and the streets were quieter, perfect for a solitary person like me. But that night, something felt different. As I passed by the alley where I usually discarded my waste, I noticed movement near the rubbish bins. At first, I thought it was just a stray animal scavenging for scraps, but when I looked closer, I saw it was a woman, a humanoid woman, though nothing like a human. She was bent over the trash bin, rummaging through it with a sense of desperation. Her skin was an unusual shade of pale green, and her eyes, large and expressive, were the color of molten gold. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and she looked thin, almost gaunt, like she hadn't eaten in days. She didn't notice me at first, too focused on finding anything she could salvage from the bins. I stopped for a moment, unsure of what to do. There were plenty of strange creatures in the colony, but I had never seen someone like her before. As the colony's tech industry expanded, we had seen a rising number of alien immigrants, but most of them were employed and integrated into society. This woman, though, looked like she had fallen through the cracks. Without thinking, I approached her, my curiosity and compassion pushing me forward. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked gently. She froze, her golden eyes wide with shock as she looked up at me. There was a brief moment of fear in her expression before she quickly stood, ready to flee. "I am sorry," she stammered, her voice soft and alien, but clear. "I wasn't causing trouble. Just needed something to eat." Her words hit me hard. She was starving, desperate for food. I couldn't just leave her to dig through garbage. Without a second thought, I offered, "You can come to my house. I have food. You don't have to do this." The alien woman hesitated for a moment, clearly unsure, but after a few seconds, she nodded. "Thank you. I'm cholera." I didn't know what else to do. Chapter 2. The Stranger in My Home. Cholera followed me back to my apartment, walking behind me with a hesitant step. I lived in a modest one-room flat on the third floor, which wasn't much, but it was clean and comfortable. As I opened the door and motioned for her to step inside, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Was I making a mistake inviting a stranger into my home? But I reminded myself that she wasn't a threat. She was just hungry and in need of help. As soon as she stepped inside, she looked around with wide eyes, taking in the sparse but neat furnishings. I offered her a seat at the small kitchen table, and she sat down hesitantly, her eyes still darting around. I went to the fridge, grabbing a couple of protein packs and some fruit I had left over. "I'm no chef," I said with a smile, handing her the food. "But this should help." Her hands shook as she took the food from me, her golden eyes filled with gratitude. She didn't say anything at first, but as she ate, I could tell that she hadn't had a decent meal in far too long. When she finished the first pack, she looked up at me with a deep, sincere look of appreciation. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice still tinged with an alien accent, but now more relaxed. "I didn't think anyone would help me. I've been surviving, I guess. It's been hard." "Why were you going through the trash?" I asked, sitting down across from her. "Why didn't you ask for help?" She looked down at her hands, her expression a mix of sadness and shame. "I don't have a choice. I lost everything when I came here. I was part of a failed immigration program. My people were promised work and opportunities, but when we got here, things weren't as they were promised. I've been surviving on my own since then, trying to find any way to get by." My heart sank as I listened to her story. I had heard about the challenges immigrants faced, but I had never truly understood how bad things could get. She wasn't just struggling with poverty, she was facing systemic rejection, and it was taking its toll. "I don't know what to do now," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't go back, and I don't belong here either." I just don't know what my future is. Chapter 3. A New Beginning. For the next few days, Colora stayed with me. She told me more about her past, how she had once been part of a thriving community back on her home planet, a species known for their intelligence and peaceful nature. But the system here had failed her, just as it had failed so many others. She had no family, no friends, and no job. I couldn't just let her continue living in the shadows. With her permission, I began helping her find work, anything I could. I knew people in the tech sector, and while it wasn't much, I made some calls, asked around, and finally found her a position as a data analyst for a small company that was willing to give her a chance. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Slowly, Colora began to rebuild her life, and as she did, she opened up more to me. Her gentle nature and resilience fascinated me, and over time, I began to feel something more than just sympathy for her. I realized that I had grown fond of Colora, of her quiet strength and determination. She, too, seemed to feel a connection. One evening, after a long day of work, she sat with me on the couch, and without saying much, she rested her head on my shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. I didn't need words to understand what she was saying. I was no longer just a stranger to her. I had become a friend, a companion, and a safe place. Chapter 4. The Unspoken Promise. Over time, Colora and I formed an inseparable bond. I became her anchor in this foreign world, and she became a reminder of the resilience of the spirit. We weren't just helping each other survive. We were healing, growing, and building something together. One day, as we sat together, looking out over the city from my small balcony, Colora spoke up, her voice steady and calm. "I never thought someone would show me kindness," she said softly. "I've always felt like I had to survive alone, but you showed me that I don't have to. I'll always be grateful for what you've done for me." I smiled, my heart full. "We're in this together now," I said simply. And just like that, I knew that Colora wasn't just an alien woman I had once helped. She was family, and we were building a new future together, one step at a time.